Well, welcome to another fun and exciting episode of X's and O's with Jeff Harrison.
Leslie Spoor.
And I just want to give you guys a warning. Our third wheel, which is really like a set of training wheels on one of those really tough, 10-speed bikes to stay up on the first time. Amy Anderson, who actually runs all the stuff behind the scenes, the cameras and the switching and these lower thirds that you see on here and all this kind of stuff. She's not here today, so what you can't see is in front of us, and so if you see me looking away or fiddling with something, it's me running that stuff. So would you be patient with me today?
I'll be patient with you. I'll be patient with you every day.
Because if not, I'm leaving. All
It'll
right.
be a short show.
Yeah, so anyway, welcome to X's and O's. I think we've got another cool episode planned for you today because it really deals with a lot of things, Leslie, that so many people, I think when they start a business, they don't really address those things. But I know
Right.
you have something you want to talk about before we get started, right? Okay.
So we're going to be talking about your end game today. So I wanted to share with you that a seminar that I went to 30 years ago now. It's scary to say that.
It's like yesterday.
It felt like yesterday. It was so profound that I'm still thinking about it 30 years later. So that's a pretty good thing. So this seminar that I attended was about your funeral, right? Yeah, I know. It doesn't sound very exciting, does it?
It's a killer topic.
I know. And I was like, oh, that's not funny at all.
Let's pump them up.
So remember, I'm about 30 years old, 30 years ago, and I go to this seminar, and they want you to plan your funeral. Who will be there? What will they say about you? What will you have accomplished in your life? How many people will be there? All these things to think about for your funeral. And the point of the exercise was really to take a look at your life and what do you want to do with it, and what kind of person do you want to be, and what do you want to accomplish?
Right.
And I've never forgotten that, and it really has shaped the way I plan my life ever since. And once,
Did you do that exercise?
I did.
Okay.
And once you think about where you want to be and what you want to accomplish, then you can create an action plan to help you reach those goals.
Okay.
Right?
Sure.
So
sure.
that segues right into today's topic about, as a business owner, what's your end game for business?
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I like that. So it's like you kind of were writing your eulogy, what you'd like
Exactly.
to see happen. Okay. So it's a little different than, it is a goal, but it's like the end game goal.
That's why this is called What's Your End Game.
Cool. So what is that? What is your end game?
So
Take it away, Leslie.
okay, I'm going to start with that. So in the beginning, when you start to think about, now we're going back to really, this is basics about starting a business, okay? So some things we're talking about more elaborate, advanced topics in this broadcast, and some things we're talking about just getting started. And today we're going to talk about just getting started. So the first thing you want to ask yourself is, do you want to start a business, a company, or are you trying to create a job for yourself, right?
Okay.
Because that's completely two different things. When you make a job for yourself, pretty much you work alone. You're going to have a limited amount of income that you can generate. It doesn't mean it's going to be nothing, but it's going to be probably far less than if you create a corporation, right?
Right.
And you probably won't hire people over time. So there's a difference between creating a job where you're your own boss and creating a company, right? And so when you identify that helps you to make decisions for where you're going to take what you do.
Because we were just talking a little bit offline about, you asked me some questions. I'm like, well, I really wasn't planning on that because of the way I've structured our corporation.
Right.
Right? Like Social Security. I'm like, I don't really plan on existing on Social Security, right? So that's something that it's almost like pay me now or pay me later. Would that be fair to say?
Kind of. The Social Security piece of this is one of these topics for today, and so we'll just jump over there and
Okay,
come
well, I
back.
didn't mean to jump.
No, that's okay. It's
Sorry,
okay because
I took a little side. I took a little cut.
We don't
I got off
care.
on the wrong answer. I was supposed to be 133, and I think I took 132.
It's fine. It doesn't make a difference. So that was one of the things the mistakes that I made when I first started my companies, right? Is that I didn't think about what was going to happen at the end. And we need to think about that because if you ever plan to take Social Security, whether you think it's going to be there or it's not. When I was 30, I didn't think it would be there either. And here I am 60 and it's still around. So you don't know. You need to decide if you want to rely on that for any piece of your retirement planning. Right? And I'm not a financial person, so you definitely need to seek counsel with your accounting people and whoever does your financial planning. But if you ever have an intention of collecting Social Security, you need to take that into account when you start your business, because whether you pay yourself a real paycheck or not, if you want it, you need to pay into it. Right?
Good point, yeah.
And that was something I didn't do. I didn't think about that. I got so excited about the idea of starting a company and being my own boss and designing all the marketing collateral, all the fun stuff, the website and all that stuff that you get to do, that I never thought about what's going to happen at the end.
Yeah.
Right? How do I retire from this business?
Yeah.
Never thought about that at the time. And now I'm 60 and I'm thinking, oh, I really should have planned a little better for
How do I get out of this cobweb?
Exactly. And I'm super successful. So imagine if you were, just getting by. And if you just create a job for yourself. So this is something that you really need to think about as you start your company, so that you can plan for that. And seeking counsel with financial planners and accountants, really critical to make sure that you protect yourself. Right? And it's not just Social Security, it's also disability.
Right.
The state offers a disability program, but if you don't pay into it, you don't get anything. So what if something happens? Right? So you need to think about all of that, and that's part of the in-game conversation.
Well, I'm not going to suggest anything in case I...
No, you're fine.
So thinking about that in-game, what other things do we need to think about?
Okay, so another thing that we want to think about is at the end, when you reach the time where you're done with your business, because we all are going to reach that point where we want to be done with it, then you need to think about what, in a perfect world, what's going to happen, right? So some of the things that could happen is, do you envision selling the business? Do you envision allowing it to continue through a trust long after you're gone, so that your heirs can receive income from the business? Are you going to step aside but stay involved? A lot of people step aside from their company as somebody else's CEO, right? And they have a board of directors, and so they still get residual income, but they're not directly involved in the day-to-day activities. Are they going to train somebody in your family to take it over, so that stay a family-owned business forever, right? One of my vendors, their company is a family-owned business, in business for more than 100 years.
Wow.
Yeah, 100 years.
They're really old.
Well, not the people that are running it today,
okay.
But the business itself is over 100 years old. And you think about somebody like Sears, or I'm trying to think of some of the brand. Ford is a brand that's been around since the beginning of time, practically. Corning, we talked about Corning, right? So these companies, they've been in business forever. And in their cases, all of them have evolved and reinvented themselves in order to be able to continue their lineage, right? In Corning's case, we talked about that. They're very big today. Originally I always think of Corning as dishware.
Sure, absolutely.
Right? The cookware you stick in the oven, right? But actually today they're into all kinds of technology and fiber optic type things and highly technical products and services that took them into a completely different marketplace from where they started out. Gorilla Glass, we talked about it for phones and for laptops, so that you can draw. That's a new product that they're just coming out with, actually.
Big time.
So Gorilla Glass is, I don't want to do a plug for Corning exactly, but the theory is that if you drop something, it won't break. And how many of us have seen one of my employees has a phone that she says is a spiderweb phone, because Spider-Man, because it's got all the cracks in it. So, if you're gonna look at your company and say, where's it gonna be long term? If you want it to continue after you're gone, then you need to be able to set it up such that it can reinvent itself, that you bring in the right people to have the vision to continually take it forward. Madonna's a good brand that has constantly reinvented herself. She's had #1 hits in every decade since she started. True. Because she's reinvented herself every so often.
She's the Corning of music. Really, because she stayed relevant, right? Exactly. Isn't that the whole idea of longevity, is making sure whatever you're doing, whether it's a product or services, you're staying relevant.
Right.
Meaning you're still needed.
Right. That's absolutely true. And again, we're talking about the end game, so you have to know where you want to take your business. And then you can create action plans and goals and objectives now that will help you get there.
Well, what do those action plans look like? I mean, like, give me an example.
Well, an action plan. Okay, I'll give you an example from something that's not relevant to a small business. For example, so right after I took this class for the funeral, plan your funeral. Sounds so morbid, but it really was profound and helpful. I decided that I wanted to be certified at the fellow level in production inventory control management, operations management, because that was the field where I was working.
Okay.
So the action plan was that I had to find out what the requirements were, and in that case it was you had to teach operations management, you had to do public speaking, and you had to get published. So I had to create an action plan on how to do that. So to teach, because I don't have a college degree, so how am I going to teach a class, right? So I had to find out the steps to go through to become a train the trainer certified teacher, and then I taught at Cal State Northridge for 2.5 years teaching continuing education classes, and again, no college degree, no teaching certificate, but qualified via certification programs to teach, right? So I got the teaching
at a college level.
At a college level,
wow,
right? So, and I still do some of that kind of thing. So, the first thing was to figure out if I want to teach, what do I have to do to accomplish that, given my background, and what are those steps? And that's the action plan for teaching. Then to get published, I had to look to see what kind of professional journals will allow. What do you call it? Cold submissions, basically, that you can just send in a submission to see if they'll publish it, and then start writing and submitting to those. And so I had to make a plan of how often I'm going to write, what kind of topics, and who I'm going to submit these things to try to get published. Eventually, I got published not once, but in professional journals, but I think 3 or 4 times in a national professional journal.
Wow, that's impressive.
Right. You didn't even know that about
all this
me.
time. I didn't know.
And then the third one was you had to take take classes and get and pass 6 exams. And then if you pass those exams plus the then you had to do public speaking. So then I had to find a place to speak about operations management, and I ended up speaking. I did teach seminars and things, but I eventually did as a breakout speaker for a conference at Disneyland Hotel.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I did a breakout session in operations management. So again, all these things in order to accomplish this, and I did attain the fellowship level certification for operations management, but I had to do all of those steps, and I had to lay them all out because each one of them required multiple steps. So the ultimate goal in this example was to be certified in operations management. The short-term goals were to teach, be published, speak, and pass the exams. And then under those were the steps that we're going to take to get there. It took me over 2 years.
Well, that was my next question, is how long
it took. That one took 2 years to accomplish that. So that takes dedication and commitment. And
plus you're running a business.
Plus I was running. Well, at that time I was working.
Okay.
At that time I was working. That's 30 years ago.
You were just a 9 to 5.
That's just well, actually I used to work 14, 16 hours a day for somebody else. So, but the point is that if you create an action plan, now you see the steps that you need to take to accomplish that goal and objective, right? Likewise for your business, if you're going to have an end game that says, I want to sell my business someday,
right?
I'm not just creating a job, I'm creating a company and I want to sell it, then what are some of those things that you need to plan to do in order to be able to sell your business to make it more valuable and attractive to a buyer? Trademarking would be one. Generating content, copyrighted content, like we do those booklets, right? That kind of thing. Having written policies and procedures, we talk about that a lot. It's really helpful for making your company valuable. Why? Because a potential buyer is looking at your reputation, and they want to know that if you transition to them, they can maintain that reputation and the same level of quality of service that you're providing now. Right? Or you can create the products the same way. I'll give you an example of where I don't think that this worked well. There was I'm going to try not to use any brand names. So there was a cake treat company, right, that went kind of under, right, recently. Okay. They made like cupcakes and fruit pies and different kinds of treats. Like the 2 yellow ones in the package with the cream on the inside.
Oh, right.
Okay. You know what I'm talking about? I'm trying to say any product names.
Okay.
They kind of went under. So another company bought them. Now they're making the same treats similar, but their recipe is not the same. So if you try one of them, they don't quite taste the same, and they're smaller and a bunch of different things. So as an example, if you're going to buy a company, you want to, and they make widgets, you want to make sure that you can produce those widgets at least as good as the person before you. That doesn't say you can't innovate and make them better, but you want to make sure that you can do at least what that company is doing, right? And policies and procedures will allow you to do that. Would you agree with that? I know you're distracted with the technology.
I totally agree. Yep.
So that's why I say you need to create an action plan, and then you need to decide, are you doing a business for yourself, a job for yourself, or a business? If you're creating, because they take you down different paths.
Sure.
Towards your end game.
Because if I'm just, let's say somebody says, hey, Leslie, I want this to be my job. Let's say
I'm happy making 50 or 60 grand a year.
Yeah, because I spoke with somebody yesterday that I met with, and they were talking about kind of this very same thing, and we were talking about small engine repair, and that's harder, not impossible. That's harder to scale up. So I think they've, in this situation, put themselves in that position of like, this is a job, because you're probably not going to have 40 or 50 of these across the country, because this is a talent you have.
Right.
And so that would be a different path, as you say, than saying, okay, I'm going to build like, let's say like Gary Vaynerchuk, who's got this VaynerMedia and, massive location or massive people. That's a different thing, right?
Right. And a lot of it comes right back to, what am I trying to create?
Yeah.
Okay. We get so excited about the idea of going out on our own and starting a company and either leveraging a hobby that we have or some kind of skill that we have, or we came up with a great idea and we're going to sell it. Whatever it is that you've come up with, you get so excited about that, you don't think about beyond the next couple of weeks, much less 30 years in the future, right?
It sounds like what you're talking about, though, is really like going back to your original statement of the story. It feels to me like all those things that you wrote down in that eulogy, if you will, help me make clearer decisions on the whole journey.
Absolutely. That's the whole point. Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
And like I said, that's stuck in my brain all these years, and I've never forgotten it. So in a lot of different decision-making situations, when I decided to start businesses, I thought about all of that, except for Social Security. I thought about all of that and said, where do I want to take? I knew when I started Executive Errands, the other company, I knew from the get-go that it was going to be a company and it was not a job. I didn't create it to make myself go do that work. In fact, I didn't do that work for 5 or 6 years. I created a business. That's what I set out to do.
And you built it as a name that had nothing to do with your name, Leslie Spoor. I mean, I hear a lot of that now. Is like, even today, somebody said, hey, when you open and you have a website, you need to definitely put it in your name. It needs to be yourname.com. And I'm like, but that's that Madonna thing. Like, nobody can be Madonna. Right? That's a hard one. So it's like, are you kind of boxing yourself in? It's like when she decides to stop singing, or this person decides to stop doing, the company dies.
And it can, and I can give you an example of that, of somebody that I know very close to me who started his own business. He actually created a job for himself, right? He never hired anybody. He had huge accounts up and down the West Coast and everything, and he did actually pass away. And when he did, his business just disappeared. There was no legacy at all because he didn't plan for it. He didn't accept the fact that he had cancer, and I don't mean to be morose. We're talking about funerals for some reason today, but what I'm saying is that he didn't plan for an end game. And so rather than trying to seek somebody out to take over the business and continue the revenue for his family, or rather than sell it to somebody and focus on his health or whatever, he just worked it until the last minute. And then when he was gone, those companies who were his clients just found somebody else to fill that need.
Wow.
And it's a shame. You spend all that time building something up, and then for what?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So I don't mean to be sad today. I don't feel sad. I just want you to know that you need to think about this.
Sometimes you have to be real.
You have to be real with it, because we don't know, from one day to the next what's going to happen. We all have this Pollyanna view that we're going to live forever, but that's not always the case. Right?
I mean, again, and this is maybe taking off track, but just curious. I mean, are there businesses out there that can easily fall into this trap? Like, an attorney or an accountant. In other words, people that say, hey, I'm, Mark A. lawyer, and I've built my whole company on that. And if they didn't, bring on associates and build it, and then, okay, they're still the name on the wall, but they're no longer actually there on the day-to-day. They could fall into that trap.
Absolutely. I've got friends in that exact situation right this minute. I have friends who are independent attorneys that when and if they ever decide to retire, their business just goes away.
Just done.
And I have other friends who are attorneys who are partnered and named partners in companies, and when they decide to retire, that business is going to continue. Yeah. Whether they started it or they work for somebody else, mostly they started it, it's still going to go on. Yeah. Right? So it really, and the bigger point I'm trying to make today is that knowing where you want it to go will help you make decisions and create action plans and give you a vision to work towards. Okay. Right? It doesn't mean that over the period of 30 or 40 years or however long you intend to run the company that your vision won't change and you won't evolve, because you will. Your clients and your customers are going to take you in lots of different directions you never intended. You may rebrand everything, right? Concierge Business Solutions has been rebranded once already.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, about 4 years ago or so, we redid the look and the feel of everything, and we went from focused on just lifestyle management companies to the broader any business.
Okay.
Right? Because really, I don't care what product or service you provide. Business is business to me, and I can help anybody, and I love to do it. Right? So I wanted to widen that scope so that I could help other people.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
So rebranding your business happens a lot, and it's perfectly fine to do that, but you still need to know ultimately where you want to take whatever you're doing.
Yeah, what the closing date looks like, or what the closing game, as you say, the end game. What does the end game look like?
Right, exactly.
So what else? Is there anything else that we've talked about that I haven't?
You want to talk, one of the things that just as part of some of the places we talked about basically selling your business, but another thing is that you may want to put it into a trust. That's one of the things I'm thinking about for Concierge Business Solutions, because we do the software, right? We license software to other companies. And so that software can continue long after me, and hopefully it will, because I've got licensees who want to use it. Right? It's self-sustaining, it takes care of itself, so there is no reason not to put this business into a trust and let it continue to prosper. And all the content we're generating, webinars, DVDs, white papers, all the stuff we're generating is still going to be relevant.
Live.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it'll still be relevant even years from now, because I focus on the basics of business and not trendy, just right now kinds of things.
Like you got to be on Periscope. Oh, Periscope's not good. It's out of business, right? Or Peach or something like that.
Well, know, and there's other. I hate to mention anybody when I don't have anything super positive to say, but there are groups where old retired, I'm going to say old because I'm old retired middle managers and CEOs will try to consult for business, and they're so far out of touch with what's happening now that their advice is not always relevant. Yeah. So I try to keep all the stuff that we do to the basics of how business operates in general.
Right. So like policies, procedures.
Right. Yeah. Or utilizing technology, you need to do that, or social media, or all that stuff is going to stay relevant. Marketing and networking is marketing and networking, whether you do it face to face or you do it through technology, you still have to do it. Right? Customer service is still customer service. The biggest change that I can think of in the last 30 years for customer service is that it used to be that the quality of your service was an order winner, and today it's expected. Yeah. That's really the only biggest change. Everything else is the same when it comes to customer service.
Standard.
Right. Yeah. How you treat people and how responsive you are and your sense of ownership and things like that. So we really try to stick with the basics of business, the happy path of business, so that this information will be relevant for years to come. That's really my goal. Cool. That's the X's and O's of this. It's the X's and O's. Right. So what other kind of information do you have? Is that, that feels, the story that you started out with feels like it kind of really, it did set the stage of no matter who you are, wherever you're at in your journey is
you need to go out in the future and think, okay, how do I want this to end?
Right.
And start preparing for that if you're not.
Right, because okay, so if you make a business for yourself, a job for yourself, like we said, you don't necessarily hire people. But if you create a company, you're going to have to hire people. If you're going to hire people, there's a whole bunch of things. Your price points matter. Whether you want, what kind of services you're going to do with workers' comp and all that sort of stuff matters. How you're going to train those people, or where you're going to find employees, what's the perfect employee look like. There's a lot of things that matter if you're building a company. And I'm not trying to scare anybody off. You should definitely do it if you want to. There's nothing more rewarding in the whole world than creating a company, I don't think.
Having no parking space.
Oh, that's true. You know what I'm saying? But you want to you need to create an action plan. Really, that's the heart of what comes out of this. If you look out to the future and you say, okay, this is where I think I want to go with this, that makes complete different decisions this way or this way.
Right.
So now you can create an action plan. Now everything you do should be designed to help you further those goals and objectives. And if you have a vision of where you want to be eventually, it's so much easier to get there. Right?
Well, you said something several shows ago when you talked about starting your business. And you would go to chamber meetings, and everybody, this was during 2007, 2008, when the sky was falling, and only people showing up at chamber mixers were Henny and Penny. And you would always say, business is great. Right? Thinking back on that, Leslie, was that just that positive, mental attitude, or was it because you did have that end in mind and you knew that, hey, there's going to be some ups and downs, and so you kept saying that?
Right, exactly. I kept saying it because I knew that's what was going to happen.
Because you've seen the future.
I could see in the future. It's actually, when I first started thinking about what kind of business to start, I really struggled with service, retail. What do I want to do? Because with the operations management background, I can do a lot of different things, right? And I picked service because I hadn't done it before, because it's hard. It's really hard. The thing was that it wasn't until I hit on the name of, because Executive Heirs was the first company, right? Concierge Business Solutions, the second company. It wasn't until I hit on the name and all the flesh on my body lifted up, and I went, that's it. And I could see it be successful. I knew it, right? And so I knew that all I had to do is create a plan to get it there. I knew it wanted to be a company. I knew I'd have employees. I just told this story the other day too. I don't know where we're on time, but I just told this story the other day where I'm so bad about charging people for stuff. I would give away everything. So when I started Executive Heirs, as soon as we got one client, I hired somebody to work for me so I could separate myself from the money. That way I have to pay the people who work for me. They have to charge for their time. My customers know that they have to be paid. They don't ask me for favors or anything like that. And it worked out really well. And so you have to know what you're good at and what you're not, and understanding where you want to take the business helps you make those decisions, right? So yeah, creating an action plan is critical. And I will share with you too, and I know I'm pitching my services as part of this, but you do want help to try to determine this stuff, because you're too close to it to know. It's a forest and a trees kind of situation, and you really do need help, especially in the beginning when you're brand new, is how am I going to accomplish, what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses, where do I want to take this business, how do I get there, all that sort of stuff. Yeah,
well, with that, how does someone get a hold of you? Like if they like what you, because I mean, I know you not only have Executive Heirs, you have Concierge Business Solutions, which is a software as a solution business,
and my consulting.
And your consulting.
Yeah.
How does someone get a hold of you?
Well, the best way to do that is to either go on the Concierge Business Solutions website. There's a contact us feature there. Or you can message me through Facebook, of course, or you can call me, and I think we have the number up here. We're going to put it up.
We are.
We're going to put it up right now. So 760-898-9604 is my personal cell phone number, and you can call that, and I will do my best to answer your questions and help you come up with a way to work together, right?
I think that's great. So if you have questions or you really like this particular episode, it resonated with you, please leave a comment in the comment section below and share it with somebody.
Right.
I mean, that's the whole thing. We were just talking about this offline, and it's so important that one of those things is, if you like this and you felt like it was valuable, as Leslie said, everything she talks about is almost what we call evergreen. It's timeless. It's not like, well, it works today, but a year from now it's stale, right? So share that with somebody that you think, hey, you know what? Maybe I'm not in that situation, but somebody else could have that value. Share that. Just turn them on to this.
Well, in this case too, this particular episode of the show is relevant to any aspect of your life, right? It doesn't have to necessarily be starting a business. You need to know where you want to be personally. You want to know when you're trying to decide if I want to buy a house, if I want to move, if I want to change jobs. All of these, where do I want to be at the end, factor into that, right? Yeah. So this isn't just about business, although it is extremely relevant to business, and it's a very good exercise for helping you make decisions for whatever you're going to start. But it's also relevant for all of your life as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, any last thoughts, Leslie? To kind of put a ribbon on this.
I'm out of thoughts at this
She's
point.
done. She's done.
Is the white paper up for them? Can they download that?
The white paper is up.
Okay, so there should be a link you can click down there to get to the white paper, and you should get on our newsletter, because what I do is whatever we talk about this week, I expand it for the newsletter, the next one that comes out. So there'll be additional information in there, and why not take advantage of it? I'm sharing everything I know here. So
that's the thing is I just read this one. I do these daily readings, and this is from the Habits of Seven Habits of Highly Successful People, and it talked about there are things we have to do, and it's grow, learn, do, learn, do, and we have to do that. So this is free information. You can come in every week, and there's no ring the bell and this is how much you have to pay, and you can get on your newsletters. Those are free. That's great information. The key is to take this and do something with it.
Yeah, and that's why you need a coach or a mentor or a consultant or somebody that you can talk to, somebody that can encourage you, somebody helps hold you accountable, somebody's shoulder you can cry on. I do a lot of that with people.
You got to stand there and shit.
I know. I don't know what to do. I had one call me this week that said, I walked her through. I don't want to solve the problem for them. I want to help them get to their own solution. And in the end, I helped her realize that she knows everything she needs to say. I just need to bolster her confidence a little bit. And that's, there's no price for that, right?
Yeah. And those are big dollars, so as far as what it does. So, well, I want to say thank you for joining us today on another episode of X's and O's Live with Leslie. And my name is Jeff Harrison.
And I'm Leslie Spoor.
And we'll see you again next week at 3 o'clock on Wednesday. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.